and improve the quality of life for those we serve. Amen.
I would ask you to join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Koppel.
Present.
Mr. Cortez.
Present.
Mr. Dietar.
Present.
Dr. Farnham.
Present.
Mr. Montleon.
Present.
Mr. Shaw.
Present.
Mr. Stinnett.
Present.
Ms. Williams.
Present.
Mayor Lawson.
Present.
Mayor,
Mr. Cortez.
I'd like to make a motion to move Council Bill 2024-253 to the front of the agenda. We can hold that public hearing now.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Cortez, second by Mr. Dietar. Please vote. That motion carries 9 in favor. Ms. Naj, would you read Council Bill number 2024-253?
Council Bill number 2024-253, an ordinance changing the name of South McKee Avenue, beginning at East 3rd Street and extending north along said public right-of-way to East Central Street to J.D. Love Way in the city of Joplin, Jasper County, Missouri.
Please.
Good evening, Council. The city was approached regarding renaming this portion of South McKee Avenue to J.D. Love Way in honor of retired police officer J.D. Love. This designation is going to be a ceremonial designation. It will not affect 911 services or mailing addresses of adjacent property owners along this portion of right-of-way. It will just be a ceremonial renaming that will include the addition of a street sign commemorating Officer Love in addition to the existing South McKee Avenue sign. We have received no pushback or any sort of comment from the public regarding this requested change, and I am available for any questions that you may have.
Council, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
This public hearing is now open. Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor of this bill? Anyone wish to speak in favor? If you don't, I will.
I'm not going to let an opportunity pass me by. Melody Colbert-Keene. Oh, yeah, I forget. What else am I supposed to say?
That's good.
Joplin. Council, hello. It's good to address you from this side. This is a monumentous occasion, and we are extremely excited and extremely proud to be able to honor one of our own police officers, a retired police officer, but more so a community neighborhood man that has done a lot in this city. The Easttown Dreams District is one of the people who have come up to get this started, as well as the city, and as well as, was it the Langston Hughes or the Minnehackney Community Center on North Main. So as a combined effort, we are just, I'm not usually at a loss for words, but a little bit today. We're so happy to present this and to get this hopefully approved, to have a commemoration for a man that is so deserving. And everywhere we go, if you mention J.D. Love, everybody has a smile on their face. And if you don't, then you just don't know him. So that's really all there's more accolades I can say, and I know I have all the time to say it, but I'm not. And just any questions you may have, I'll be happy to answer.
Any questions for Melody? Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else in the audience wish to speak in favor of this bill? Please.
Hello, my name is Nanda Nunley Sparks. I'm happy to say of Joplin now. I've recently moved back. Mr. J.D. Love deserves this honor more than anyone I can think of right now. He not only has affected our community, but as young children, we grew up knowing Mr. Officer Love, and he meant so much as a role model, especially in the Black community, but to the entire community. And as Melody said, you bring up Officer Love's name, and everyone's got a story. It's always a good story, and it goes to his heart, his compassion for the community, his dedication to this community. And so I just want to say we are so honored to be in this position right now to ask for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of this bill? Mr. West.
Good afternoon, Council. It's so good to see you all sitting there, and I'm on this side for a change. My name is James West. I live at 1602 Valley Street, Joplin, Missouri. I want to say something about this gentleman we call Champ. When I was on the Joplin Police Department years ago, Champ and I served together. We had several occasions to do things together. He'd always be referred to me as Officer West. Every time I see him as Officer West. J.D. Love was well respected in this city. Everyone knew him. You didn't know him, you should know him. He was one of the ones that's good, like your father out in the street. He was a good man, and this name of this street is more than fitting for him because he's still here.
Amen.
He's still here. And let's give him his accolades and flowers while he's still here. And I hope that the council that makes this decision, that we make this through because he is well, we learn the offer. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in favor of this bill? Anyone else wish to speak in favor? Does anybody in the audience wish to speak in opposition to this bill? Anyone wish to speak in opposition? I deem this public hearing closed. I will entertain a motion.
Mayor,
Mr. Cortez.
make a motion to pass Council Bill 2024-253 on first reading and advance it to second and third.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cortez, second by Dr. Farnham. Please vote. That motion carries 9 in favor. Mr. Love, you honor us with your presence. Did you want to make a speech?
Well, I'm free to all about 86 years. But, so hopefully, my high school speech teacher doubt if I could ever be a public speaker. And I had those doubts too. But hopefully I can convey what this means to me and my family, friends. I first joined the police report in 1965, and I thought the being a policeman was to catch bank robbers and thieves. So, but I found out it was more than that. You know, and so I guess the police ethics is the citizens of the city. It's a job, not an interruption to the job. That's where I took it. And so, but of course, I'm like anybody else. There's a lot of days in my life that I would like to forget. But this one day or evening I'll never forget. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I know Joplin appreciates all the officers, but if you bring up J.D. Love's name, they don't just appreciate him, they love the man because he has made a difference in so many lives. So we're fortunate to have him tonight. This time, presentations.
Joplin Area Chamber of Commerce Quarterly Update.
Good evening, Council. It's great to be here. Always appreciate the opportunity to come and spread some good news and share with you guys and engage and answer any questions. So first off, I want to introduce a new but familiar face to hopefully all of you, and that is Amy Kaufman. About 10 months ago, Amy left the McKee organization to pursue an opportunity, and thankfully, we were able to one-up that and give her an even better opportunity to come back to the McKee organization. So we're happy to announce and introduce Amy as the executive director of McKee. So we're elated. She's been here all of, 5 weeks now, back on the job. So January 2nd was her first day back. So moving forward, or actually not moving forward, but recapping what's happened in the last 90 days. RFIs, requests for information, we've received 13. Of those, we submitted 1 response on behalf of the city of Joplin. That was Project Romaine. We actually submitted that January 23rd, so just a couple of weeks ago. So there's been no dialogue or information coming back since we submitted that RFI. Wanted to just throw out a couple of examples of why, out of 13, why would we only submit 1? Typically, things are beyond our control. Either they want more land available than we have to offer, they want a building, they want higher electric capacity than we have to offer at current time. So we can only respond to the ones that we actually meet the criteria for. So we do have 2 active projects, and when I say active, I would say very active. Project Buffalo, Project Hydra. Both of these, what's really interesting is they're much higher average wage is what they're projecting to pay. Our county average wage right now is about $42,000 a year. Both of these projects are projecting at least $50,000 minimum average wages. Project Buffalo is looking at Crossroads. Project Hydra is looking at Wildwood. I would say of the 2, Project Buffalo, both projects have zeroed in Joplin as where they want to be. So that's a really good sign. On the Project Buffalo, we feel very good about this one, but there are a lot of things still to work through. They have some asks, and we are working through that to make sure we can meet their needs. Project Hydra is a little more sensitive just simply because there's things outside of our control, particularly electric rates are critical to this project. They are working directly with Liberty on meeting those needs as well. And at this point, all we can do is provide support and exchange information. So hopefully by the next report, next quarter, we'll have already concluded these projects, and we'll be able to share a lot more at that point. Just quick recap, this last quarter, quarter 4, 2023, we executed on 33 business retention expansion visits, all with large employers, typically 50 employees or more. This is on the heels of the 3rd quarter where we executed 41 business retention expansion visits. Quarter 3 really focused on Crossroads Industrial Park. Quarter 4, we expanded beyond that. And we were short-staffed at the time, so that was outsourced. However, we have made a hire for a new workforce development participant and our manager, and that person comes on board mid-February. So we're excited to be close to fully staffed at that point. Wanted to give a shout out to one of our locals, the Hawthorne Foundation, which I assume you guys are familiar with Hawthorne, but for those watching on or streaming or on television that aren't, the state of Missouri handles business attraction with a private-public partnership. Missouri Partnership represents the public entity. Hawthorne Foundation represents the private side of that partnership. They raise funds privately, no taxpayer dollars involved on the Hawthorne side. So when you see things like the governor makes a trip to Japan or Germany and does his own business expansion visits and attraction trips, that is all paid for out of Hawthorne. So just to clarify that. So they did their annual meeting back in November, and they gave out their first ever Award of Excellence and presented that to one Mr. Rudy Farber of Neosho. It's always great to have a little love shown our way in the Southwest Missouri region. And Rudy is very active in the McKee region, and they contribute to the organization as well. So kudos to Rudy for being the very first winner of that award. Also on the staffing, Alyssa Brown from the Chamber team. She's been with us a couple years. She's in a marketing role. We are now splitting her time, so she will be working half-time for McKee, half-time for the Chamber. And her duties will be creating content, really beefing up our social media presence, making sure the website is robust and up to date, which has been a challenge the last few years. And to my knowledge, McKee or the entity it goes by at the time has never had a true marketing person on the staff. So we're really excited to bring Alyssa into that mix and see what more traction and more of a presence we can get out to the site selection consultants in the communities. We're very excited about a partnership with a company called Livability. So they are a website-based company that creates content specifically for local communities. We have contracted for them to do 10 articles. I assume you guys have this present. Yes, you have it up on the screen there. So they will produce these articles. They'll work with local businesses. They'll work with local folks, do interviews, and put out stories such as I came to Joplin for college and stayed for my career, why I built my business in Joplin. We can then take those articles and push those out on our content pages, our social media, our website, and just create those engagements and give folks who are checking out Joplin a lot of content to sink their teeth into to help understand the community better. So that kicks off later this quarter for our first articles, but we will do 10 articles this year. Happy to announce the Joplin Young Professional Summit, first ever, is taking place this Friday at the Cornell Complex. So if you're not doing anything Friday morning, mid-Friday afternoon, we encourage you to just stick your head in and see how that looks and what's going on. And then the last thing I just wanted to touch on, the ATTC building. As you guys are aware, Crowder has found another location. They will be exiting or vacating that building. Our lease currently runs, just want to give an update to you guys. Their lease runs through the end of summer, so they will be there at least till then. Nothing final yet. However, they have signaled to us that they probably will stay a little longer, which is great for us because it gives us more runway to figure out what the next chapter of that building is going to look like. So we're excited to have them a little longer. So, and with that, we would love to answer any questions you guys may have.
Council, any questions? Mr. Stinnett.
Thank you, Mayor. Travis, obviously a lot of activity and a lot of good things that you're talking about. From my perspective, what's the end result when we get there sometime during the year, and it's early in our year under your current contract. I do have a question about Project Buffalo. When it was originally presented, the dollar figures that were being talked about job-wise was $75,000. You hear rumors all the time about everything, obviously, but is the dollar figure now, is this primarily because of transfer in employees from other locations and some of the higher-end jobs are going to be farther down the road, or can you...
That is correct. So they are looking at several stages. The initial phase is about 80 jobs created, and it's in line with the $50,000 a year mark. But if things go well and things go as planned, there will be more to follow, and those would be higher wages. So
okay.
I didn't want to get too far ahead down the path.
I understand that. And I don't want to get baited by some high number either.
Sure.
Thinking it's going to be one thing and it doesn't turn out to be that. So
Right.
that was the reason for that question.
Sure.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Cortez.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Travis. Welcome back, Amy. What could you have done if you'd have just stayed? I appreciate the presentation. I just wanted to chime in and say this is all extremely exciting stuff that we've got going on. I look forward to what's going to happen in the future. In Buffalo and Hydra, we need to nail the coffin shut on that one and make it happen and get it done. This is Joplin, Missouri, a little old town in southwest Missouri, and we're doing things.
Sure.
And I think that's a testament to to the grit of the people that are in our community that are working on the benefit of all the citizens. So appreciate all the efforts that the chamber does, and I'm really excited to see you back to work, Amy. Thank you.
So one quick comical note. So Project Hydra, so we're dealing with an outside of the state entity that's looking at this, and they refer to it as Project Missouri. Well, we decided we can't call it Project Missouri, so we call it Project Hydra. So, yeah.
That's great. Anybody else? Mr. Montleon.
Thank you, Mayor. Looking at the RFIs, we had, the 13 that came in, a couple that got to go back out, and you mentioned sometimes it's land acquisition that's a problem, sometimes it's electrical. How often is it like utility-based issues that make us just say, hey, we can't move forward with this project? Welcome back, Amy. I'm putting you on the spot.
Well, I haven't seen all of the RFIs that we did not respond to because most of those came through before I was back. But I will say it happens, and really it kind of depends on the site. There's very different capabilities at Crossroads than there is at, say, Wildwood. So it kind of depends on which site we're leaning towards. But we are seeing, I will say that we are seeing projects that are bigger with bigger power requirements, bigger capital investments, and even more jobs. So they're just getting bigger. And so I wouldn't say it's a critical problem. We work very well with Liberty. But I would say as these projects go forward, we're keeping an eye on that to make sure we don't run out of power and then we just have land. So that's something we're looking at. But projects are getting more and more electric heavy.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to that a little bit. We have seen, I wouldn't say there's any commonality, but there's a few things that are emerging more and more, and that's a lot more electronic vehicle, batteries, those sort of things, projects popping up, which demand immense power loads, and they need that power available, within the next couple months or a year. Any electric company like Liberty could amp up and ramp up their equipment, but it would take multiple years to get there. So, yeah. And it really varies. Some they need rail, some they want to, I'd say about 50% want an existing building, which is hard to come by anywhere, but they're looking for move-in ready stuff. So,
Well, thank you for those comments.
Yeah.
To council, I'd say this is something to keep in mind. It's a scary big topic, but I think in the next 50 years, and that's a long time out, I think in the next 50 years, the cities that truly get ahead on these issues are the ones that have their own public utility groups. Based on where we are, we don't have anything other than the sewer system, and that is going to bite us in the butt eventually. So something we need to look at moving towards in the future, potentially. Thank you for the time, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Stinnett?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll follow up a little bit on Anthony's question. Several years ago, I know that early on in some of my council years, when Empire District was the electric company, we had some of the cheapest rates in the state of Missouri. And then I've heard over the last few years that we may have some of the highest electric rates in the state of Missouri. Can you address that or talk about that?
well, I can't speak to Empire, but I have heard, no data in front of me, but I have heard we are a little on the higher side of electric rates. Now, I don't know if that means residential, industrial, across the board, but we have heard that. I do know Liberty does have some programs that, for example, Project Hydra is applying for a special rate, and so they do that on a case-by-case basis. But that, I don't want to speak for Liberty. I think they should be able to answer for that.
Hydra would probably be because of the amount of electricity they're talking about, which
Right.
is absolutely astronomical compared to most companies' needs. But have you had, and you haven't been around that long, Travis, but since you've been here, have you had any circumstances where the rates themselves caused any concern for a potential?
I would say we're not there yet. In our, for example, our BRE visits with the large industrial employers, no one has signaled to me that that's a concern. It could be one day, but as of right now, that's not a pain point.
Okay.
So,
Just curious. Appreciate the info. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Dietar?
Piggyback on both those guys, since we're talking about electricity. And I know you just mentioned that Liberty had talked about it'd be a few years. Do they have, I think we've talked about this a few months back, or at least in the last 6 months. Have they started any plans in either Crossroads or Wildwood? Have they started kind of building up that infrastructure for some of these, the 50 kilowatt jobs?
yeah, I think they are looking at, especially on the Crossroads side, at expanding and doing some things over there because they have the infrastructure in place. Wildwood, they have a substantial substation, and I think there it's kind of a wait and see, and if they get the project, they can ramp up pretty quickly. But they are aware of Crossroads and the needs, and so we are having some discussions on that. So, and they're very good at, they're looking out 50 years ahead,
Right.
and where all their industry sites are and what they can support, because it only makes sense for them to grow and attract projects, and that's
Yeah.
more revenue for them. So,
That kind of leads into the other part you mentioned too, Anthony, land and utilities. We have the Liberty puts out these utilities, this big infrastructure out there. We need more land, right? So I just kind of wanted to mention that. I know that you guys are working on some options out there, but I just kind of want to put that in council's head too, that, if we do all this, we can have all the electricity out there in the world, but if we don't have anywhere for anybody to build
Correct.
something,
and we're getting pretty close to some options on land.
good
So,
deal. Glad to hear. All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Travis, thank you.
all right.
Finalization of the consent agenda?
Mayor,
Yes.
are we moving for the approval of the consent agenda, or are we just
I
picking and
am
choosing?
looking for a motion. The point is, to East economy has been postponed. So the next thing is, yes, finalization of consent agenda. What? I was hoping for a motion.
No.
Right, I jumped ahead. I apologize.
Okay. What's next? Oh, okay. I'm so excited about nuclear power plant. Okay. Anybody on the council wish to speak to the consent agenda? Anyone in the audience wish to speak to the consent agenda? Anyone in the audience wish to speak to the consent agenda? Hearing none, I deem the consent agenda finalized. Reports and communications.
News from the Public Information Office.
Evening, Mayor, Council. Pitch hitting for Lynn again. Joplin crews are kicking off the beautification project along Main Street this week, and will encourage drivers to use caution as they approach the work zones. Joplin Parks and Recreation, along with Public Works, we worked with the Simpson Lawn Care to replace the invasive pear trees with the more appropriate trees, the ivory silk Japanese lilac and the fruitless spring snow crabapple trees. These smaller flowery trees are more suitable for downtown beautification. The first phase will focus on the area between 2nd and 8th Streets. After completing the downtown area, crews will move on to 15th to 32nd, and then eventually replacing Joplin Avenue trees at a later time. It's being evaluated now. Replacing the trees along Main Street is a long-planned investment to enhance the overall appearance of the main corridor to our community and provide an attractive area for existing and new businesses. The city anticipates completing this project by late spring of 2024. Funds for this project result from the citizen-approved appropriation use tax and associated beautification incentive efforts. A few worthy dates to bring forward from the Visit JoplinMo.com events page. It's happening in Joplin, March 18th and the 23rd. You heard from Jared earlier about the Joplin Sports Authority hosting the JACCA, the Junior College Athletic Association, D2 Women's Basketball Championship game. We're going to have over 20 teams in town, 400 athletes. They'll be competing at the Leggett and Platt Athletic Center. Details and team information is forthcoming. The regional tournaments are starting to happen next week, and we'll know more details about that as the girls finish their season and move the finality to Joplin. It's happening in Joplin over the skies on April 8th. Joplin will experience a total eclipse again. This is the last one until 2045, so enjoy it now. Joplin will benefit from 95% totality for about 2 minutes on April 8th, about 1:50 time frame in the afternoon. It's happening here May 13 to 18th. We're hosting the 65th annual convention of the National Council of Corvette Clubs. About 400 Corvette owners will be in town that week doing all kinds of things in the region, from Mocam down to Crowder. Visit Joplin and Landers Chevrolet are the co-sponsors for the May 3rd Thursday. And we'll have a Route 66 favorite concert. The road crew will be back in town as part of the convention. And then lastly, this fall, it's happening in Joplin on October 16th. 40 to 50 vintage military vehicles will be passing through as they traverse the Jefferson Highway from Winnipeg, Canada to New Orleans. They'll be coming through here the morning of the 16th, having breakfast at the old airport terminal. So if you enjoy vintage military vehicles, that's going to be your date, October 16th. These and more happenings can be found at Visit Joplin Mo event page. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Patrick. Citizens' requests and petitions?
Mrs. Price was unable to attend this evening.
Okay. Public hearings.
It is requested that persons wishing to testify before the City Council follow these rules. Approach the podium and state your name clearly for the record. Please give your testimony as briefly and completely as possible. By the rules of the City Council, you have 5 minutes within which to give your testimony. Please follow the clock on the dais in front of you. You must complete your testimony within a 5-minute time limit. The City Council of the City of Joplin, through this introduction, accepts into evidence the 2012 Comprehensive Plan, the Zoning Code of the City of Joplin, the Subdivision Regulations of the City of Joplin, the Telecommunications Ordinance, and the Stormwater Management Regulations of the City of Joplin, being Appendices 29A, 29B, 29D, 29E, and 29F of the Joplin Municipal Code. Report of the Planning and Zoning Commission, recommendations of the city staff, and other written documentation presented as that information applies to each public hearing. Thank you for your consideration and understanding. Council Bill Number 2024-251, an ordinance amending ordinance Number 2022-274, passed by the Council of the City of Joplin, Missouri, August 1st, 2022, by removing from District M2 Heavy Industrial to District R3 Multifamily Residential. Property is described below and located at 2012 West 2nd Street.
Good evening, Council. This request comes from Land Scout LLC. The property outlined in red on your screen is the property that is being requested to rezone from heavy industrial to multifamily residential, or R3. The future land use map indicates this area as moderate density residential, which under Article 4 of the Joplin Development Code, R3 is a compatible district for moderate density residential neighborhoods. These neighborhoods are typically in community centers that connect to more urban or high-trafficked areas. 2nd Street being a collector street, this location complies with the guidelines outlined in the zoning code and the comprehensive plan. City staff and Planning and Zoning Commission have recommended in favor for this change. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Council? Thank you.
Thank you.
This public hearing is now open. Anyone wish to speak in favor of this council bill? Give us your name.
Hello, my name is Britt Hale. I reside at 2431 Stinnett Drive in Joplin. I'm a member of Land Scout LLC, so I just wondered if anyone had any questions for us.
Any questions, council? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience wish to speak in favor of this council bill? Anyone wish to speak in opposition to this council bill? Anyone wish to speak in opposition? I deem this public hearing closed. The chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Koppel.
I move for the passage of Council Bill 2024-251 on first reading, advance to second and third.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Koppel, second by Ms. Williams. Please vote. That motion carries 9 in favor. Next bill, please.
Council Bill Number 2024-252, an ordinance approving the voluntary annexation by the Council of the City of Joplin, Missouri, of property generally located west of the intersection of Wildwood Ranch Parkway Avenue and Nellie May.
This request comes from Lance Ledford for property in Wildwood and John Duffy Drive. This is phases 3 and 4 of a previously approved preliminary and final plat subdivision for what is called Eagles Edge subdivision. So the portion outlined in red is the next 2 phases. The prelim was approved in 2022, and now they're just adding the next 2 phases and wanting to annex those in as part of this development. City staff and Planning and Zoning Commission have both recommended approval. Any questions?
Council? Thank you.
And thank you.
Public hearing is now open. Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor of this council bill?
Logan Ellis, 811 East 3rd Street. Civil engineer with OWN. I'm here representing Ledford Construction and Development, and be happy to answer any questions you all might have.
Do we have any questions, council? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience wish to speak in favor of this council bill? Anyone wish to speak in opposition? Anyone wish to speak in opposition to this bill? I deem this public hearing closed. The chair will entertain a motion.
Mayor,
Mr. Deitar.
I move that Council Bill 2024-252 be placed on first reading and passed.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deitar, second by Mr. Koppel. Please vote. That motion carries 9 in favor. Consent agenda. Maybe I'll do it right this time.
Mayor,
Mr. Cortez.
move for the approval of the consent agenda as finalized.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cortez, second by Mr. Deitar. Please vote. Please vote again. That motion carries 9 in favor. Resolutions.
We have none.
Ordinances, emergency.
Council Bill Number 2024-106, an ordinance approving the agreement with Satterley Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Co. in the amount of $597,756 for the Justice Center water line replacement, and authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute the same by and on behalf of the city of Joplin, and containing an emergency clause.
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With approval of this council bill, the city staff will be able to enter into an agreement with Satterley Plumbing, Heating, and Air for the amount of $597,756, and that will be for water line replacement at the Joplin Justice Center. This is the 4th project under this particular grant that we've done for facility work at the Justice Center. These were all projects that were chosen due to the facilities assessment. This particular one was focused on replacing water lines, and that's just 8,295 linear feet of water lines. You can see some of the plans that we provided to the contractors. Then if you'll go to the next one. We also had a lot of facility walkthroughs for the contractors to be able to get the best price. You can see a lot of piping there, and so they have quite a few water lines, quite a few sizes. The linear foot prices in range from $33.63 per foot all the way up to $298.85 per foot for the large 4-inch water lines. These are all water lines primarily inside the facility. This is partly due to the making sure that we don't have any leaks or any problems with the water lines, as well as quality of life. And a lot of these water lines are very old, They're not lead, but they're coated lines, and so I think that there's going to be, a major quality of life improvement here for everyone that continues to use this facility. With that being said, the funding is half through grant, half through the public safety sales tax, and the city staff would recommend approval on an emergency basis.
Any questions? Mr. Stennett, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Dan, the recommendation that came out of the assessment group was that this was an item that needed to be addressed, in their opinion, within a 5-year time frame.
That's correct.
And are we doing this simply because we have the accessibility to a grant? Because we're again talking about spending money in a building that may get torn down at some point.
That's true. Of course, this is the fourth thing that we've done with that particular grant at that facility. The first being the duct cleaning, which really had a positive impact on the air quality within that building. Then the second item, actually the first item, was the chiller. And the reason that we replaced the chiller is because the existing chiller failed, and that was also on that 5-year timeline. We should replace it in the 5 years, but there is no guarantee that the water lines are going to last for another 5 years.
And I can understand that. And I'm not arguing about the possibility. I guess I'm concerned about the timeline. If I potentially was thinking about selling my house, potentially, not knowing for sure, I probably wouldn't go spend the money to replace my air conditioner if it was working. If it was broke and the water was leaking all over the building, or I would spend that money. I'll be honest, and this is no reflection upon you, okay, in any way, shape, or form. I've already had a lot of people call me and say, why in the world are we spending $500,000, even though part of it's grant money, on a building you guys a month ago and still are talking about tearing down? And Mr. Manager, I'm sorry, but, I don't have a good answer for them, to be honest with you. Because I'm not dealing with, in this case, with a water line that's broke. It may be broke tomorrow, but it's not broke today. This is probably going to pass and probably going to happen. But, at some point in time, citizens will get upset and tired and fed up, and they have a tendency to come back and bite you. And I have some real concerns about this particular project. Until such time as a decision is made and a presentation by the city back to the council about what's the next recommendation to happen with the Justice Center, I don't know. And I may be the only person that says anything about this. But anyway, I have some concerns, Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Koppel.
I also have concerns about this, and Mr. Edwards and I discussed this on Friday. One of the things that I had to keep in mind is we're not looking at voting on this for potentially a year, if not 2, before it even comes up to a vote, and then it's going to be a couple of years worth of acquiring funds before we start the project to have the to get to a point of having the finances in place. And then the ones we've looked at are moving the fire station or building a new fire station first, which will take every bit of a year, and then working on the rest of it. So by that timeline, you're looking at 3 to 4 plus years of this building being in place before we could take an action. And yes, that's a lot of money to spend on a building for 4 years, But there again, if this is on these lines need to be replaced within the next 5 years, and we're looking at and it's already been 6 months plus since that study, and then we're looking at 4 years before we do that, we're bumping at the far end of that 5 years. This is a pretty critical building, and having water for the workers that are there, but probably more importantly for water is the jail staff, or excuse me, the jail occupants, because we don't have any place else that we could put them, would be a pretty critical piece to this. So I struggle with this as well, but if you think of the timeline and put it all the way out, it does make a little bit more sense, at least to me.
Mr. Dutar?
I had kind of the same kind of holdups that Mr. Stinnett had, and then I think the last meeting we talked about, we had whatever other project we were started on, we talked about the same thing, that it's going to take some time before the work to be done or the building. But the other thing we have to remember too is this thing's going to a vote. We're not deciding. The citizens have to vote, and there's no guarantee that vote passes. So, while we're waiting for something like that to happen, we could be running into some issues as well. So I think that knowing that it would take 4 to 5 years before it could even get to where it would be done, but the other factor is that we don't know if we're going to be building a new building. So we kind of got to take care of the one we have too, is kind of how I can feel about it. Anyway, thank you, Mayor.
Dr. Farnham.
I have the same considerations, and so I'm about 60-40 on it. It's not a black and white issue for me. I'm about 60% against and 40% in favor of this. I do feel if a pipe starts leaking, that it could be worked on, and there may be an interruption in water service, but if everything is replaced, then there would certainly be many interruptions in water service. And I think that, personally, I think this could, if we wanted to revisit it at some point, it could come up again. I recognize that this will probably pass, and I'll be one of the only people, if not the only one, voting against it. But I do feel that if we didn't pass it tonight, which, as I said, isn't likely, but if we didn't pass it, then we could always revisit it in a few months or a couple years, depending on the situation. So I do plan to vote against it, but again, I really appreciate and respect those that want to vote for it and their reasoning in doing so. Thank you.
Mr. Cortez.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Johnson, the water lines that we're looking at replacing now, what's the age on those? Are these original water lines to this building, or were they replaced 20 years ago, 25 years ago? Do you have any insight on that for me?
I believe everything is original. There have been some small repairs and some additions added over time, but it's largely original plumbing system.
So this is 1974 was when the Donald E. Clark Center was
67.
built? 1967, even older than I thought.
A couple years after Mr. Love started.
Okay. Thank you. That's the only thing I had. Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. What are the requirements of the grant funding? I know several projects were identified related to the Justice Center. What if we choose not to do this particular project? Can that money be reallocated, or would we just leave it on the table?
The grant was for Justice Center, specifically infrastructure for the Justice Center facility. And the grant is on the same timeline as the ARPA funds, and we are doing very well on this grant as far as hitting the timeline, which the grant agency will be pleased with. It will make their jobs easier and make us look better, and that's kind of how we like to be seen by all the grant agencies. You can depend on Joplin.
Okay, thank you for that reminder.
to add on to Dan's comment, I believe our deadline to obligate the funds is December 31st. We have to have a construction agreement in place by December 31st to retain the grant funding.
This is a 50-50 match?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Stinnett, did you have something else?
Not really, Mayor. If some of the lines were to have an issue, they're easily repairable the way they're put in. And the timeline of when they were put in it seems like a lot of years, but in water line lifetimes, it's not a lot of years necessarily. There's a jillion buildings in this city that have not this good of product that's put in a lot earlier than these were. And that's fine. It's obvious that the majority want to do it, and that's the way it works. Majority rules. I hope the future council, when they're talking about whatever they're going to do, if they try to put something to the voters for a new justice center, will take in consideration the amount of money they've spent and figure out a way to reduce their final cost for a new center by the amount of money they spend on a building if they end up tearing the building down. Anyway, no problems, Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Koppel.
We had said that we had a list of projects for this building. Are there other projects behind this one? Or is this take us to the end of our list for the Justice Center?
The plan is to work a little bit farther. The chiller, we actually get the new chiller next month. March 15th is when we're expecting that. The plumbing is all done for that, and the electrical is started, so we expect to be able to install it and switch over, which is good. It'll be started early enough so that the hotter time of the year we'll be ready with the new chiller.
You're not catching the gist of my question. If we don't pass this, are there any other projects on the Justice Center list that we could use toward the grant that might have a bigger need or a different need than the water lines? Or have we expended our list?
We prioritized it, and actually whatever's left over, we plan to go back to revisit the electrical, and we were able to get good pricing on the electrical, and so our plan is to go back and revisit the electrical and see if we can do some more there.
Thank you.
Mr. Shaw?
Mayor, I don't know that I'm even 60-40 or 50-50 or 80-20 or what, but I hate to see us putting this amount of money into something that we don't know we're going to use. If there's some way that are we thinking, is there anything else, if we're able to come up with a way to build a new Justice Center? It doesn't have to be at that location, does it? I mean, could it be somewhere else? Could we use this building for something else? I kind of agree with Mr. Stinnett in that water lines, a lot of the water lines in Joplin are a lot older than 1967. These water lines have been on the interior, and so they're probably don't have the wear that a lot of our underground water lines have gone through. And so I just very conservative, and I just hate to see us putting almost $600,000 into something that at this point is not broken. I understand, I'm going to replace the broken water lines in my house as they need it. I'm not just going to replace all of them. So I don't know. I'm really confused about this. I don't want to stop our progress in getting to where we need to go, but I just have a hard time spending that kind of money on a building that we don't even know we're going to use.
I appreciated Mr. Koppel's question. If we don't obligate this for the pipes and stuff that we're talking about tonight, is there someplace else that you can spend that money on so we don't have to give up the grant? Because we're talking $250,000 of city money.
The grant is for that facility.
Right.
So if we did spend the grant on something else, it would be something else at that facility, in that building.
Is there something else in that building that you could use that grant money for?
There is, but we prioritized
Okay.
it.
I see. Anything else?
Mayor?
Ms. Williams?
Mayor? Oh, go ahead.
There were concepts presented to us that included keeping this facility as part of the overall complex and adding on to it. So is there a way that this council could say, hey, we've spent $2 million upgrading this facility and maintaining it. Let's go ahead and keep it in the project moving forward. So I don't know if we can do that, but I would feel more comfortable spending the money now to maintain that building if I knew it was going to be there in the future as part of an expanded Justice Center complex.
Okay. Mr. Shaw?
I think maybe I wanted to say similar to what she's saying.
Okay. So, Mr. Edwards?
Yeah. Mayor, Council, at the next work session, SFS Architecture will be back to review the Justice Center options that had been previously presented. If you remember, we were kind of had a couple of discussions on two options. One is a combined facility there at the existing footprint of the Justice Center, and another option would be have a portion of it north of Broadway. So we can go back through those options, and then I can also bring back the previous options that showed, basically a substantial remodel, remodel and addition, and all the other options, and we can look at those again to see if there's an opportunity to reclaim or reutilize some of the existing Justice Center. We could look at that again.
Okay. Well, I think the council is expressing concerns of the citizens. My suggestion is somebody make a motion to table this till a later date.
Mayor?
Mr. Deitar?
I would move to table Council Bill 2024-106 until a future date where we have more information.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deitar, second by Mr. Dr. Farnham. Okay. Please vote. That motion carries 7 in favor, 2 opposed. Let's see. Next bill, please.
Council Bill Number 2024-353, an ordinance approving the contract by and between the City of Joplin and Clay Coal Trucking for the demolition of the structures and the clearing of the lot located at 828 South Murphy Avenue in the City of Joplin, Missouri, for $3,000, providing how the cost thereof shall be paid, how the assessment thereof shall be made, and containing an emergency clause.
Thank you. It's not difficult to see from the images on your screen that this is a former home that's in pretty bad condition. It had a structure fire. The property owner did not do anything to clean up the lot, so our dangerous building inspector had tagged it and took it to the Joplin Building Board of Appeals, which ordered it demolished under the dangerous building code. We did advertise for bids to remove the structure and clear a lot of debris. We received 6 bids, which is actually pretty quite a bit for typically what we receive. But the lowest bid was submitted by Clay Coal Trucking for $3,000. Staff is recommending that you accept this bid from Clay Coal Trucking, and we also recommend that this council bill be approved on an emergency basis under Section 2.12, subsection 1 of the Charter, since this bill pertains to the immediate preservation of the public health, safety, and welfare.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Bolander? Yes, Mr. Bolander.
Thank you. Just because it's been a while since I've been back, I don't recall if I remember Clay Coal Trucking and Excavation. Have we worked with them in the past, or is this a first-time bidder?
It's not the first time, but they are a fairly new company, probably since the last time you've been on the council. I don't think they were around.
Okay.
But they have done some projects for us in the past.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Koppel.
I move for the passage of Council Bill 2024-353 on an emergency basis.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Koppel, second by Dr. Farnham. Please vote. That motion carries, 9 in favor. Next bill.
Council Bill Number 2024-502, an ordinance amending the annual budget of the City of Joplin for the fiscal year 2022-2023, as adopted by Ordinance 2022-161 on October 17, 2022, to adjust appropriations and containing an emergency clause.
Ms. Hass.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This council bill amends the adopted 2023 budget for the city. So this is the final budget amendment. We're amending the TIF transfers out and the golf course subsidy, amending depreciation expense, and amending fire, public safety, wages, and some Fire Station 7 expenditures. So the total budget amendment increases expenditures by $1,863,100, and staff recommends approval of this council bill on an emergency basis.
Any questions for Ms. Hass? Yeah, Mr. Duttar.
I got a lot of them today. Hey, Leslie, I just want to, and maybe I'm not trying to catch you on the spot here, but I think that people watching at home or that listen tend to get a lot of questions. The budget gets confusing. It's confusing for us, and we're here. But can you kind of just talk about transfers out and TIF, maybe just an overview of what that's going for? So I think people see transfers in and out, and I'm just trying to help clarify for those here and those watching.
Sure. So when the city approves a TIF, the way that works is at the date that the area is activated, that is your base. And the incremental increase in pilots and EATs, which EATs are economic activity taxes, so that's your sales tax and your franchise tax, that goes back to pay for the development. So essentially, the development is paying for a portion of itself, usually the public infrastructure, things like that. And so the sales tax comes in total to the city portion of that, to the funds that get the various sales tax, and then we have to transfer that to the TIF fund in order to send that incremental increase to the development to repay those costs.
Okay. Thank you. This is one of those things that always gets brought up, at least to me, and we're talking about budget items. Everybody's like, what's TIF, CID, transfers in and out? What the heck are we talking about? Basically, so yeah, we look at the Park Stormwater Sales Tax Fund. We got I'm just using that because it says $45,000 came in. We transferred that $45,000 to the TIF to help pay for the development of that area, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Cortez?
Thank you, Mayor. Leslie, to my understanding, this is kind of the final cleanup of budget amendments to wrap up the 22-23 budget.
Yes, sir.
So this should finish it out and finalize it, and 2022-2023 is closed.
We hope so. Our audit started today. Our annual audit started today. So outside of the auditors finding anything, this should be it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Thank you,
Thank
Leslie.
you.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Koppel.
I move for the passage of Council Bill 2024-502 on emergency basis.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Koppel, second by Mr. Duttar. Please vote. That motion carries, 9 in favor. Next bill.
Council Bill Number 2024-603, an ordinance authorizing the City of Joplin, Missouri to enter into an agreement with Downs and St. Germain, a Florida corporation, to conduct a tourism visitor profile of the Joplin tourism region for the not to exceed the price of $75,000, authorizing the city manager to execute the same by and on behalf of the City of Joplin, and containing an emergency clause.
Mayor, Council. In 1988, the citizens of Joplin supported a measure for the City of Joplin to participate in marketing Joplin as a tourism destination. In June of 1989, the CVB began operations. This June will be 35 years of the CVB promoting Joplin worldwide, and over that years, an in-depth, lengthy guest survey has never been conducted. We have done periodical, small, segmented polling, but that data is pre-pandemic and grossly outdated. An in-depth, lengthy collection of data is needed from online surveys, in-person visitor intercepts, focus groups, and plus digital data collection, which is kind of a new modern type effort to do that. Such information will aid in the destination development, empower efforts by those invested in tourism, and allow us to target our marketing better to achieve a greater ROI on all tourism entities. Visitor profile, in short, seeks to understand better who is visiting our community, their origin, their location of origin, and their habits within our destination. This council bill authorizes an agreement between Downs and St. Germain, a Florida corporation, to conduct such an in-depth, year-long tourism visitor profile of the Joplin tourism region. Downs and St. Germain was selected through the city's RFP process. We received 6 differing bids from different agencies. These bids range from $140,000, meeting our requested needs, down to $26,300 for a survey based purely on digital data of credit cards and cell phone records. After reviewing and scoring each bid, the staff and I determined which bids to move forward with. 3 were selected. Zoom interviews were conducted with each, followed by further discussion before deciding on which one best met our needs. This agreement is for a 12-month visitor profile study of the Joplin tourism region, not to exceed $75,000. The initial portion of this is paid at $22,500 through a Missouri Division of Tourism grant we received. The state, being on a different fiscal year cycle than the city is why this is presented on to you as an emergency basis so that we can get to work on it immediately. As with all the funding of the CVB, the balance of the payment will come from the lodging tax with no funding coming from the general fund. The CVB Advisory Board and staff recommends approval of this council bill on an emergency basis.
Any questions for Mr. Tuttle? Mr. Stennett.
Patrick, you just mentioned something about tying in with the time frame of the grant itself. What is the time frame of the grant itself?
The state fiscal year is 1 July through 30 June. So we're going to use that money first, and then our budgeted part will kick in second to cover the rest of it. So we have to have part of this study completed by 30 June.
By 30 June?
Yes. Okay. So that's why it's spinning it out to do the initial part of it, and then we'll finish it up. It'll probably go into FY25 because it's just we want to get a full year of data, a full cycle of seasons so we can get spring, summer, fall, winter activities.
And the reason I asked the question about the grant and the emergency is that, we have had some criticism about emergency ordinances, and the justification for the emergency ordinance under Section 4 of what we got here is in order to continue the day-to-day operations of the city. Well, quite frankly, I don't think this has anything to do with the day-to-day operations of the city. So I understand what you're saying about the grant. I don't understand how it's written in here. Doesn't make sense. But anyway, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah. Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Tuttle. Chair will entertain a motion.
Mayor.
Mr. Cortez.
Move for the approval of Council Bill 2024-603 on an emergency basis.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cortez, second by Mr. Koppel. Please vote. That motion carries 8 in favor with 1 opposed. Next bill, please.
Council Bill Number 2024-604, an ordinance authorizing the City of Joplin, Missouri to enter into an agreement with the World Street Art Foundation, the Netherlands, to consult on developing and marketing a 3D street painting festival for 3 years, 2024, 2025, and 2026, with the option to add 2027 as a signature event to mark the centennial of Route 66 and increase the international visitation to the Joplin tourism market, and containing an emergency clause.
Mr. Tuttle.
Council, if you recall, back in last November, I was before you seeking your go-ahead to explore further the means of developing a series of events that would be unique celebration in 2026 for Route 66 Centennial. And in doing so, I also introduced to you the 3D street painting concept. This bill approves the agreement between the World Street Painting Foundation of the Netherlands. They would serve as the consultant in developing a 3D street painting festival that would become Joplin's signature event series to celebrate the centennial of the Mother Road and increase visitation during those years. Using the city's RFP process, 3 inquiries of our scope of work were received. Only one, the World Street Painting Foundation, submitted a bid. This agreement covers 3 years of events, 24, 25, and 26, with the option to add 2027. In addition to these festival expertise, the World Street Painting Foundation has an internal marketing component they bring to the table with this. In recent years, the foundation has held the World Street Art Festivals in the Netherlands and in Germany. Through this agreement, a version of the annual festival would be held in the United States, namely Joplin and Route 66, their only U.S. location. The partnership will offer an international connection with an established audience, a community of international artists, and the internal marketing team I mentioned. The international appeal will be great for the Route 66 draw during the centennial. Including international artists is a crucial factor for the event's success, providing the CVB with a highly marketable experience to attract visitors from around the globe. Overlapping events in June and July of 2026, such as the USA's 250th birthday and the FIFA World Cup playing games in Dallas and Kansas City, will add an opportunity to attract international guests like never before. Joplin's World 3D Street Painting Festival will kick off in June with an introductory event featuring 3 artists. This June, 3 artists. The start of year will help build momentum and attract sponsors for a more compelling event in 2026, which will feature 20 artists. 2025 will be a growing year again, a little slightly smaller than 2026. We'll have 10 artists, allowing us to build experience and gain awareness and media exposure. Should a decision be made to continue the Signature Series past the Route 66 Centennial, 2027 may or may not need the consultant's help. It would be our ideal to hand this event off to a local arts community to continue it on as a signature event for the city. The working dates call for the event to be held during the first full week of June for 2024. That would be June 4th through 8th, which also pairs with a Spiva Center for the Arts events. We've already looked into this. Funding for the initial year with the agreement is in the CVB 2024 budget. Future seed funding would come from the CVB budget. However, sponsorships and grant funding, including in-kind contributions, will be sought for most of the budget. As with all the funding for the CVB, committed funds will come from the lodging tax, with nothing coming from the general fund. This has the approval of the Joplin CVB Advisory Board, as well as the Joplin Celebrations Commission. Staff recommends approval of the council bill on emergency basis.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Stennett.
Again, Patrick, I have to ask you, what's the reason for the emergency clause here?
The reason is the first event is in June, and we've got a preliminary plan started. We just need to execute it and get it going, because that gives us 4 months to get it going and get it happening. So,
when was this original thought or concept?
It's been knocked around probably since August, September timeframe, and really moved forward with it in December. And having to work through the process of the RFP and the bids and everything else has kind of set us back a little bit. But
okay, thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Koppel.
I have an ask of the city manager and of Mr. Tuttle. This past Wednesday, Ms. Williams, Mr. Montleone, city manager, myself, attended a presentation, and then this fell into our lap when we got the agenda on Thursday, and I couldn't help but note the linking of them, at least in my mind. One of the major themes of this presentation was to move beyond invitation and move to engagement. I would like to see us move beyond invitation and asking people to come and view the 3D art and make this a involvement and an engagement, and try to tie in, use this as our anchor event, but connect with our other art partners in the area. Joplin has a very strong art background, history to it, a lot of very good artists in this area, and get them involved and make this week in June a Joplin Arts Festival. get more people here doing things, hands-on, seeing things, if we could get the art put in the city hall windows and downtown Joplin windows or in the businesses, that'll attract people downtown, get people into those businesses, spending more time with those people, just making a bigger reason for people to come and see the art and be involved. And I think we could make this a very big event and a very good event, and drawing more and more people to the area and to see the works that we have. So my ask, if the city council would go with this, would be to, if this gets approved, is to go beyond that and reach out and try to put together a working group and get all the other people, all the other players in the area involved with this. I think this could be a phenomenal event for the area. And I even have a suggestion for a name for it if it comes to being, and that would be the Priscilla Pinner Festival of Arts. She was an amazing woman, an incredible artist in this area, recently passed away, and I could think of no better namesake for the overall bigger event of something like this. May not happen. I just want to throw it out there. Absolutely have the 3D festival as the anchor to this, but try to make this a much bigger encompassing and get the entire community and the entire area involved in this and make this a bigger, an even bigger event. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Copley. Mr. Shaw.
Patrick, help me understand what this is. We're talking about street painting. People are asking me, are we going to paint the streets? I mean, what all does it entail?
I think you were missing for the December meeting, I think, Mr. Shaw, when we did this. I need to send you the separate presentation. If you can visualize, 3D art is both, will give you depth, dimension,
right.
The 3D is part of it.
Right.
And these artists paint on the ground, but it looks like they're painting a hole or a cavity or something that's tall or different perspectives of it. So these artists are specifically designed that they work in this medium by itself. So when you look at the finished art, they will give you footprints to stand to make sure you see the 3D image, because if you look someplace else, it's totally
different.
Wonky out there looking at it. So the plan is for this year to use the Cornell complex, either 8th Street or the front steps of the Cornell complex, to do a demonstration and educate the public on what it is and what the artists are like. And then we will move to the dead end part of Schifferdecker Park there at 7th and Schifferdecker, where the road dead ends. We have room for 20 artists there. So 25, 6, and 7 will go over there. And the beautiful thing about these is that they last for 3 months to 6 months based on the weather we have that follows the event. So the June event is the key capstone, but anybody traveling Route 66 or coming to Joplin can go experience these for hopefully up to 6 months. Then we just power wash the area and start again the next year. So that's kind of the thought behind that. To Mr. Koppel's point, we are working with the museum and some other folks on doing different things in Schifferdecker Park as we move forward with this, some different exhibits, and I welcome the rest of the art community to join us. So it's going to be a good time.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yes, sir. I will send that package over to you so you can see it.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Unless Mr. Cortez has it there.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm planning to vote against this. I may be the only one. I actually like it, but I'm just hearing from the citizens that this item number 5, also number 4, that I voted against. I'm just voting on behalf of the citizens that have talked to me. Personally, I like the idea. I would vote for it if it was just me voting, but I'm voting, for the citizens on this. And I have, as Mr. Stinnett said, I've also heard some of the objections to the overuse of emergency clause, but that's not the only reason the citizens were against it. But just, please be aware that my daughter's an artist, and please don't tell her that I'm voting against this, because I actually like it myself. I'm just trying to represent the citizens. Thank you.
Mr. Farnaby said that's why she's coming back to town, you said.
I shouldn't have divulge so much secret information to you.
The event is for Route 66. We've got to do something for the event. We keep asking about a signature event. And anything else we've looked at, a concert, car shows, flea markets, they're all about the same amount of money. So we're going to plan a signature event that we hope have something that's going to be marketable throughout the entire state and globally because of the other events happening. So I appreciate any comments your constituents have and be happy to talk to them about it and explain the details.
Okay, and thanks to you, I'm going to be killed by my own daughter. Thank you.
I didn't talk to her earlier, sorry.
Yeah, Mr. Dietar?
Hey, Patrick, so the money that this is being funded with, this is CVB money that is collected from hotel tax, lodging tax, is that correct?
Correct.
So it's not something that's going into the general fund?
No
or anything
general
like
fund
that?
at all, sir.
So this is CVB's money to spend, how CVB?
Well, how you all allow me to do it, but yes.
Yeah, right.
And we do have a reserve fund, so if no sponsor walked up, we do have funds that will work with this, but my intention is to have some seed money every year and then go back up sponsors and make it happen through that.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was, we're not taking this from.
Everything the CVB does is purely lodging tax and no general fund.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah. Well, your job is to bring people to Joplin who otherwise would not come. And you're doing a good job of that.
I hope.
When the 100th anniversary of Route 66 occurs, we are going to be competing with every city from Chicago to California, trying to get people to spend an extra day here.
Exactly.
And I think this is an event that will more than pay for itself.
Well, we're
That's my
monitoring very
personal
closely,
opinion.
Mayor. The National Commission, there's all 8 states, there's a National Commission. We have the State Commission. We've obviously developed a Tri-State Corridor Commission that we're putting together with. So multiple layers of working with all kinds of people to do so. And then you add in the World Cup, and we're supposed to know in February the actual game schedule, not the teams, but the game schedule. And we're hoping that Dallas and Kansas City connect sometime by the teams because there's only 2 roads between the 2 of them. And they go through Wichita and they go through Joplin. So I Metro there, we're trying to even develop a Drive Missouri campaign. So if people are going to other World Cup locations, they've got to go through Missouri to get there. Or if their team's not playing for 3 or 4 days, come down and drive 66 and have a good time. So we're working very carefully with Missouri Division of Tourism to take all the events we're having and really bang it up for the state.
Right. The only kickback or complaints I've heard, the assumption is that Joplin taxpayers are funding this. And I think the reality is it's somebody driving through town that's paying for it. And that's good for everybody.
You are correct.
So
Joplin taxpayers are benefiting.
That's my view. Anything else? Chair will entertain a motion.
Mayor.
Mr. Cortez.
Move for the approval of Council Bill 2024-604 on an emergency basis.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cortez, second by Mr. Montleon. Please vote. That motion carries 8 in favor with 1 opposed. Next bill, please.
Council Bill number 2024-605, an ordinance approving a purchase order to be issued to Motorola Solutions, Inc. in the amount of $144,266 for the annual service agreement and containing an emergency clause.
Welcome, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This is for our annual service agreement with Motorola Solutions. These funds were approved in the annual budget due to it being over $100,000. That's why we're bringing it forward as an emergency ordinance. What this does is it continues our service each year with our radio system. Some of the things that this covers year to year, which, by the way, current year price is unchanged from the previous budget year. It covers all the radio equipment we have at our dispatch center, our main tower site, our west tower site, and our south tower site. Also included, among other services, our response from Motorola when the system would go down. It also includes automatic updates to our radio software as well, and staff recommends approval.
Any questions? Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Koppel.
I move for the passage of Council Bill 2024-605 on emergency basis.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Koppel, second by Dr. Farnham. Please vote. That motion carries, 9 in favor. Ordinances, first reading.
Council Bill number 2024-107, an ordinance approving the City of Joplin to enter into a construction agreement with R.E. Smith Construction Company in the amount of $419,000 for the interior renovations at Joplin City Hall, and authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute the same by and on behalf of the City of Joplin, amending the annual budget of the City of Joplin for fiscal year 2023-2024 as adopted by ordinance 2023-158 on October 16th, 2023.
Mr. Robine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. So if you recall, this concept was brought to you last fall, and at that time, staff was tasked with going back to some conceptual designs and taking a look at how we could perhaps retain the construction effort within the existing interior building envelope. So what you're seeing tonight is a product of those meetings and discussions. This council bill will approve the construction agreement with R.E. Smith for the total amount of $419,000 for the interior renovations of Joplin City Hall. The action plans that were approved by City Council included a strategy for increasing positive messaging in promotion of the city. Within the strategy included new staff positions in the communications department, newly created last fall. These new staff, along with existing staff, will be located on the second floor of City Hall. The approved action plans also called for additional staff person in the finance department. To accommodate these staff, renovations are required on the second and third floors of City Hall. These improvements were approved in the 2023-24 budget. In accordance with City of Joplin's procurement policies, a request for proposals for the interior renovations was advertised in the Joplin Globe. Bids were received by the city on January 12th of 2024. 2 bids were received with R.E. Smith Construction selected as the lowest responsive bidder. The low bid is within the staff's estimate. A notice to proceed will be issued once the signed contract documents have been received and executed, and the project is intended to be completed within 90 working days. Of course, the funding source is through the Project Action Implementation Committee. This was presented to them and approved, or given support, I guess is a better way to frame it, and funded through those proposition use tax funds. Staff recommends approval. Construction agreement between the City of Joplin and R.E. Smith Construction for the interior renovations of $419,000. And with that, I can answer any questions. If there's any building construction specific or technical questions, I asked Dan that I may lean on him a little bit. Finance questions, I may lean on Leslie, but
Council,
happy to answer any questions.
None. Thank you, Tony.
Excellent. Thank you.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Koppel.
I move for the passage of Council Bill 2024-107 on first reading, advance to second and third.
Second. Motion by Mr. Koppel, second by Mr. Dietar. Please vote. That motion carries 8 in favor with 1 opposed. Next bill, please.
Council Bill number 2024-254, an ordinance establishing grades and accepting the final plat of Eagles Edge 3rd Edition located west of the intersection of Wildwood Ranch Parkway and Nellie May in the City of Joplin, Jasper County, Missouri.
Thank you. Mayor, with your permission, I'd like to include this plat plus the next plat request on the agenda in my presentation since they are submitted by the same developer and are contiguous with each other.
Please.
Okay, thank you. Gave Tyler the rest of the evening off, so I'm see if I can do this correctly. It's been a while since I had to present a plat, but this is the final plat for the 3rd edition of Eagles Edge subdivision. Currently, the first 2 plats phases have been approved or are currently under construction. This plat itself contains 20 lots. The lots are very similar to what's currently being built out in this area right now. They are for single-family residential homes. Access to this addition is actually from the north at Wildwood Ranch Parkway. The plat was reviewed by the different departments, including planning, development, engineering, building, fire, and police, and we do believe it meets the codes of the City of Joplin. Staff has determined that it meets the minimum requirements of subdivision code, such as lot area, the width of the streets, the installation of infrastructure, including the installation of street lights. What you'll find is the street lights being installed at the intersection, and since this is a long block, when you add the addition to the south of it, which I'll talk about next, there'll be a street light at mid-block as well. Because this meets the requirements of our code, staff recommends approval of Eagles Edge 3rd edition. Any questions?
Council, questions?
All right, going on to the next, plat Eagles Edge number 4. Very similar to the one you just reviewed. Lots are the same size, about 65 feet in width. If this addition is approved to ensure the continuation of a new street, which is Leah Lane, which access to 32nd Street. So if you look at the subdivision to the north we just discussed, and this one, you'll have a new street that connects Wildwood Ranch Parkway to 32nd Street to the south. Again, all the departments have reviewed this subdivision and determined it meets the requirements of the subdivision code. Staff recommends approval of the final plat of Eagles Edge 4th edition as well.
Any questions for Mr. Bolander? Mr. Stinnett?
Troy, just curiosity on my part on Phase 4. On the east side, we've got what appears to be coming from the north, the second lot really small and the third lot larger. Is that just?
A lot of it, I believe, is due to the drainage in that area.
Okay.
Yep. So if it's the lot I'm looking at correctly, just to the south of the street dedication there. Yeah, there's a drainage area that runs through there.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So to make it buildable, it's larger.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion on Council Bill 2024-254.
Mayor.
Mr. Detar.
I move for the passage of Council Bill 2024-254 on first reading, move to second and third.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Detar, second by Mr. Koppel. Please vote. That motion carries 9 in favor. Chair will entertain a motion on Council Bill number 2024-255 after she reads it. Sorry.
It's okay. Council Bill number 2024-255, an ordinance establishing grades and accepting the final plat of Eagles Edge 4th edition located west of the intersection of Wildwood Ranch Parkway and Nellie May in the city of Joplin, Jasper County, Missouri.
Yeah, the television audience doesn't see all the fingers pointing at me when I do that.
Mayor.
Yes.
I move for the council, or the approval of Council Bill number 2024-255 on first reading and move to second and third.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Detar, second by Mr. Koppel. Please vote. That motion carries 9 in favor. Ordinances, second and third reading.
We have none.
Unfinished business.
We have none.
New business.
Case 002-24, northwest corner of South Maiden Lane and West 22nd Street. Site plan review. A request to review a site plan. KCDT LLC.
All right. You haven't seen one of these in a while either, but this is a request to review the site plan for a new commercial retail establishment located at the northwest corner of Maiden Lane and 22nd Street. Since this property is located in a planned development district, by code, you are required to approve the site plans prior to staff issuing a building permit. After review, staff believes the plan meets the codes in terms of the overall site development, which includes landscaping and parking. The building design materials are also consistent with the Joplin Development Code, which includes a mix of primary and secondary materials of EFS and masonry on all 4 sides of the building. If you remember from our previous code, it just required that type of design on the front part of the building facing the street or the sides facing the street, but they'll see the continuation of that material on all 4 sides. So we do appreciate the applicant extending these materials to all 4 sides of the building. Sorry, I can't speak tonight. Staff believes this plan meets the requirements of all our codes, including the Joplin Development Code. Along with Planning and Zoning Commission, staff recommends approval of the site plan.
Questions, council? Mr. Montleon.
Sorry to get one in right at the end.
fine.
Director Bolander, I like the entrance exit location on the Maiden Lane side. Do we have any concerns with the 22nd Street exit? It looks pretty close to the intersection. Is that going to be entry and exit? Is it going to be right turn only? What's the plan with that?
No, I have a feeling it's both direction. It's probably due to the location of the building, and then you have another street immediately to the west of the building. We feel like this would be all right, especially since this is a local street on 22nd Street. It's not our arterial or collector, so the traffic volumes we don't think is going to be that great along that intersection there with the driveway.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anything else? Thank you, Mr. Bolander.
Thank you.
Chair will entertain a motion on case 002-24.
Mayor,
Mr. Deitar.
I move for the approval of case 002-24.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deitar, second by Mr. Cortez. Please vote. That motion carries 9 in favor. Any other new business, council? Mr. Stinnett.
Thank you, Mayor. Obviously, I have a short time to go before I won't be up here anymore, so I'm going to start taking advantage of that and talk about some of the concerns that I have and some of the things that bug me before I leave here. This is not new. I've mentioned this many times before, but I like to watch the Springfield, Missouri Council meetings. I find them very informative. I find them conducted in a very professional manner, and it's interesting to see how they do things compared to how we do things. But recently, Mr. Paul, Jordan Paul, the assistant, was the previous assistant city attorney here, took on the new job there in Springfield, and I wanted to find the council meeting where he was officially recognized and introduced to them. And I found that particular meeting, and he obviously seemed to be very much at ease. His seat during council meetings is sitting to the right of the city manager. They do not sit on the dais, but I knew that the city manager would be on camera periodically, so I figured I'd see Jordan at some point in time. He did get introduced, but while I was doing that, their website makes it very conducive to being able to get into their council meetings and look through them and look through their special meetings and all of that stuff. And so I spent some time and went through. I didn't listen to all of them, but I went through all of the agendas for all of the council meetings in 2023, specifically looking for emergency ordinances. And in the year of 2023, now, I'm not claiming that I understand everything they do, and if they do something behind the scenes I'm not aware of, that may be one thing. And I'm going to ask that perhaps the city check into some of these things as after I say this. But anyway, during the calendar year of 2023, they did 9 emergency ordinances. 6 of those were dealing with issues they were going to put on a ballot for the citizens to vote on. So in a 12-month period, they only had 3 emergency ordinances dealing with something that was happening. Now, I don't know how they do it, because we get some good reasoning behind why we should have so many. But I do think that we are out of proportion for emergency ordinances. And I do think the citizens have concerns about them. And I do think that if another city, which is even a little bit larger than we are, can conduct their business without having emergency ordinances every single month, maybe there's some justification that we pursue looking a little bit on how that can happen and why it can happen. At the same time, following up on that and looking, they had listed some special council meetings, so I wanted to check into those. And I found one to be very interesting. It was a council committee on ARPA funds. And this was a joint meeting between the committee of the council, which I believe was 5 council members, as well as a Citizens Advisory Committee for Community Development CDBG Funding Action Plan for public services. Mr. Shackles and his person were here this evening talking about asking the city to perhaps participate in a public service that they perform. And we've done more in the past, and then there were some changes, and we kind of pulled back from that. But they had the Citizen Advisory Committee and the Council Committee meeting together. And they brought in anybody that wanted to come and make an application for a CDBG funding grant for public services. So this tells me it was an annual meeting. A lot of the organizations that came and made requests were similar to Mr. Shackles. It dealt with all different aspects within the community of public services. These were CDBG dollars that the city had accumulated or had and put out. And it was, in my opinion, if the city of Joplin wants to desire to go back and look at participating with public service groups in a funding, that the method that Springfield used made a little sense to me, and one I think the city should investigate a little bit. Then I found a special retreat meeting that I wanted to follow, and this one was really very interesting, but it goes all the way back to 2021. In 2021, the city of Springfield deals with a group called Community Partners of the Ozarks. And this is a conglomerate, kind of the head of a conglomeration of all of these various agencies and entities that are trying to address homelessness. And it was almost a 3-hour presentation, so it took on a whole afternoon to listen to all of this. They are so much farther ahead of where we're at on homelessness. It's terrible. This was in 2021. We've hired a consultant, and we're still waiting for the final report. These people were already boots on the ground and have been there for 3 years now almost, dealing with homelessness. And it was a conglomeration between the council and these community partners of the Ozarks. And the council was integrated into this. They were just as much involved with what was being presented and what was being discussed, and involved in the forefront, involved in the very beginning. Not the tail, but the head of the dog, so to speak. The city, and this is something that Mr. Bolander may already know, but the city of Springfield is actually involved in being in the primary role of securing the actual funding for how this works and how it's utilized. So again, they're at the head of the issue, and I found it interesting that none of these groups had any competition or mistrust of each other. They all were working for a common goal, and they weren't trying to protect their own territories. It didn't appear, at least at that meeting. I say all of that to say this. I really sincerely think that we have done what we've done the same way for years and years and years and years. And very good. I have no problem with it. I've been part of it. I really think in some of these areas, maybe it would behoove the council at some point, maybe the new council, to investigate a little bit about how some other communities do some of these things. And I'm not saying that staff doesn't already know some of that. I certainly wouldn't ever say that. But I really did find a machine, a well-oiled machine that was moving along well in the area of, I'm not saying they've solved the problems, but a collaborative group working together to try to solve homelessness in Springfield, as well as a good community action plan for public services funded through the CDBG programs. Anyway, I would encourage Mayor, the next council at least, to take a look and see if it's not wise, wouldn't be wise to have the city do some investigating to see and have the council involved to see if maybe there are some things that we could improve upon that would make it better for people like Mr. Shackles and some of those organizations, to where every year they'd have an opportunity to make a grant request and a funding request, and that way it could be, the city could be the driver of it, the council could make a determination of how much money's involved, and move forward in some area. Anyway, I highly encourage any of you, you just go to springfieldmissouri.org and get on their website and listen to some of the meetings. I don't agree with a lot of stuff they do, but I do agree with some of the format and how they are involving both the council at the start, the staff, and the community in some of this stuff. And it's not just like it comes to the council and say, okay, here it is tonight, you guys make a decision. It appears they have gotten around that type of reactive government, so to speak. Anyway, thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other new business? Without objection, we are adjourned.